Okay, so I had to restart my system. Uh, I was planning on starting this like a half hour ago. Um, Probably, if you knew what time it was, which is 7:30 Mountain Time. It's a little early to be seeing my ugly face, but we're gonna go for it. I'm a little flustered because I had to um, restart things. Everything had stalled up, and I know that ends up making for not a very good video. I had one I had to take down because it kept, you know, it's really jerky, and I guess that nobody could, really get through it to see what was happening. And um, I honestly don't like watching videos of myself, so I don't really edit these things at all, and I don't know if I ever will. So it's one thing I like about being this kind of ass end of the internet place inside a horrible dark void or something. Um, I kind of get to do what I want um, to a degree. Anything I feature in any of my videos, but we'll just talk about this one, anything I'm going to show you, I was not given a product in exchange for product placement. These are all things that I bought myself, and I wouldn't be recommending them if I didn't use them myself. So there you have it. So yeah, I wanted to, I figure on Sundays there's not too many people doing streams and stuff on Sundays, and well, this isn't a stream. I'm not not really set up to do that yet, and like I said, then I'd have to keep track of the chat, and my God, I've got enough problems just keeping track of this. I don't know. It feels like everybody else out there is more talented and together than I am, and kind of what I'm going to talk a little bit about today. So yesterday, um, instead of working on furthering the plot to any story that I should have been working on, all I did was put together some notes, my excuse for an outline for potential future stories. Still haven't figured out what I'm going to do for my holiday romance story yet this year. I just couldn't. So, with the furthering the plot, I couldn't. And I'm still kind of trying to work through what happened last year when I just got really burned out. And I realized today that I feel like writing, it doesn't belong to me anymore. It's not my special place, my wonderful universe where I go. It became another fucking thing that I have to do for other people to try and make money, which I don't think it's ever gonna make money. But it doesn't feel like it's mine anymore. And what I do like to do on Sundays, I like to work on stuff to kind of help people be able to feel like something is theirs and feel like, it's okay to be dealing with what you're dealing with. Um, I can promise you're never going to come here and like have me put the shame on you for what you look like. I get so sick of that shit. It's like you're here and you're like um, you being you know I'm just using it for like a random YouTube creator or something, and there are people I watch for various reasons, and maybe then I won't watch them for a while, but like something they said about some sort of social or political issue or something, or even maybe something psychological or esoteric or something, and something resonated with me. But then the fucker has to drag in like, you know, oh my God, it's unhealthy to be X size or whatever, and it's just like, you really got to do that, because, not everybody is able to fit into the same narrow bank of sizes that people have been conditioned to believe are okay. Um, I'm not, I'm not going to say one way or another about anybody else, because what I do know and what I've learned through Reagan Chastain, who again, she has the Weight and Healthcare Substack, and it's well worth reading. She's a much better statistician, researcher, scientist than I am. My only credential, and it's not even active anymore. I held an LPN license. I call a lot of other people call it low-paid nurse. So I was a nurse, retired from that, and at one point I held an EMT license. So I have training in, basic medical care. A lot of things that I do understand, and I will tell you this, that there was a lot of hate and shaming towards larger people when I was in nursing school. Basically, people are taught that it's okay to be like that towards somebody if you don't like what they look like. And the promise I'm making is I'm never going to do that. For one thing, if I ever start losing a lot of weight, it means that something fucked up is going on. Because I will never deliberately pursue weight loss. If something that I do medication-wise or something like that, or if my endocrine system suddenly makes adjustments that somehow aren't deadly or something and causes me to lose weight, that's not a fucking accomplishment. It's not. So, I don't know. Some people, they're able to do certain things and it works. Well, for some of us it doesn't. But anyways, my promise is I am never going to scold and shame anybody for what they look like, for what their body is like. Anybody that's here and anybody that's still listening to me, you're here, you're still here because you've got things going on in your life too, and I want to make it clear that that's what I'm trying to do, is just trying to be a friend to people, to Right, a little friendship, I imagine a lot of you are younger than I am because kind of almost everybody is at this point. I am, ancient. But there again, I think I can take some of the things I've learned and help people with that. So, yeah, like I said yesterday, I was not in the headspace, and sometimes I wonder if I'm ever going to be able to get back what I lost as far as just having that be my place, my imagination, because my imagination saved me more than once. When I was a kid, I was bullied real badly, and at that point it wasn't about my size because I was actually thin when I was a kid. My thyroid blew up when I was 13. It destroyed itself. It said, fuck you, I don't want to live in this stupid body anymore, in your stupid life. I hate you. And so it was kind of downhill from there as far as having a metabolism that worked. Now, as I told you all, I do have ADHD. I'm possibly on the autism spectrum, so I may repeat myself over the course of these videos, and a lot of that is because the problems I have not been solved. But here's one thing. The doctor I'm working with now, one of the blood panel things that she had them do a test for was how much insulin is running around in my body, and apparently there's a little more than is optimal. I've been doing my insulin regimen for about 10 years, and it keeps my blood glucose down. Now, because of the way people are using these drugs, and they're not really meant to be used this way, and it's very modest weight loss if it even works, but the GLP-1 agonist drugs are being used in that fashion. But I've got to tell you that when they're used in that fashion, it's a very high dose of the medication. Those are diabetes medications. And my doctor and I have discussed possibly replacing some of the long-acting insulin with one of those if I tolerate it. And she knows that I'm not wanting to use it to attempt weight loss. If it's something I tolerate, what it can do for some people, but not everybody, is reduce inflammation in the body, and I know I have a problem with that. I have, chronic low to mid-grade pain from head to toe. Every inch of me hurts, and it's been that way for a long time. I don't know that it's like true fibromyalgia, because there are certain aspects of that I don't have. I think it's more to do with my endocrine problems, but ever since I got into my teens and stuff, I've had very low energy levels, although I'd have bursts of hyperactivity, and I didn't know what was going on. So I learned some maladaptive coping skills. So at this point, I have some ideas on how to write some books about that sort of thing, and you know, maybe that can become more of the pursuit for the writing, and let the fiction writing just be something joyful for me again. Um, so, products today, I wanted to show you. Um, so these, God, focus, focus. I don't know if I can get it to. They're little tea lights, and maybe I showed you last time, but they change colors. So it's red right now, and now it's blue. And I like using them because I don't want to be lighting candles on my desk, knowing me, I'd burn the house down. I did used to use candles, real candles. Maybe the fire elementals prefer those, but you know, this has a battery, so maybe get some high-tech fire elementals that dig that sort of thing. Um, tell you about my new little espresso pot. Maybe I'll bring it in sometime and show you. Um, but so that's kind of a low-tech solution. You put it on the stove. Something I really like is coffee, but most of the time it's got to be decaf because I'm on several, well, two antihypertensive medications, so I limit myself to 1 cup of the real thing every day. And one thing I find that's helpful for both pain and anxiety is microdosing certain elements. And because it's YouTube, I can't, you know, it's not anything. These are legal things. Um, it's not illegal. It used to be illegal. In Colorado, it's legal. Anyways, but I'm not trying to get out there. It's microdosing, and it's something that I think that write about it on my Substack maybe, and then put a link to that in the channel. If I was strictly publishing this to Odyssey, and I might start doing that, maybe make some like low-cost videos that people can purchase, or somehow make a membership on Odyssey or something. See, I've got a bit of a conscience, I guess, because like I really want people to have the information, and I hate charging for it. I really do. But you know, it would be something like really low cost. I would keep it in the range where people can afford easily. Something I want to show off because I'm going to end up nibbling away at it. I took a picture of it. It's a special chocolate heart. Things are coming after me. Just dismiss this. But yeah, so I thought today we would, you know, work together. I found another timer with no copyright, you know, copyright-free background music, and I'll put a link to that. Now, my distracted self. I also got this new deck. Part of the problem is I blur my background because my storage room, storage room office is not gonna get cleaned up quickly. I know this. You might as well know. Decca's called. She believed she could, so she did. And I thought we'd take a look at a card today, and we can kind of little inspiration for the day. Not toxic positivity. I do not do toxic positivity. In the 30 some years that I was into that new age mindset, and I want to tell you that there is a difference to me between esoteric explorations and new age mindset. I found the new age mindset to be very victim blaming, and I also found it to be just more my way or the highway. Not much different from the religion I was raised up with, um, but with an esoteric spin on it. The one thing I did like about Catholicism, I liked the ceremony, I liked the mysticism aspect. I I didn't dig sitting there being preached at, and you know, like I said in the previous video, I believe things like reproductive rights and you know, homosexuality and the way those were framed in the Catholic Church, like homosexuality is a sin, blah blah blah. No, it's not. It's a sexual orientation. That's it. Why should it make any difference to anybody if someone is attracted to same-sex people as opposed to being attracted to the opposite sex? Who cares? So that's about as political as I'm gonna express here. I've already kind of indicated my stance on, since I say it's the current mess. And it's not like I have any strong allegiance. I think both parties are part of the same corrupt system. I don't like having this very bipartisan system. There's no nuances, you're not able to really, a third party doesn't stand a chance, and I think things need to change with that. I encourage people to think critically about anything. Don't religiously give yourself over to anything, whether it's actual religion or a political figure or a political party or a political stance on something. Any of that, you gotta think critically. You gotta take it in. You gotta weigh the checks and balances. Black and white thinking tends to hurt everybody. So, we got to be able to have nuanced discussions about things, and I feel like at this point that's really not possible. People just cancel somebody for disagreeing with them. I'm socially pretty far to the left on most things, and I live in a town where most of the people are way far to the right of me, but you still got to get along, and most of these people genuinely want good things, and what good would it do me to hate them? That's hate. Hate is what you reserve for someone who does something just like insanely heinous. And at that point, I just don't want to think about that person. Because, anyways, let's look at my new deck. Let's get into the positive. I mean, I'm starting to have 3 a.m. thoughts here, and I don't want to do that. I want this to be a positive video. We can talk about hard subjects, I think, but I kind of try to keep it out of the political space because, if you want somebody to like you, don't talk about religion or politics. And as far as someone's religion, I respect most spiritual beliefs, but it's the way, the way people end up expressing things, like, oppressing women, or you know, condemning people who are same-sex attracted, and things like that. I can't go for that. Anyways, so, okay, this is a concept that I've always had trouble with, because the way it's been expressed, at least from, where I stand, it's always been expressed in this punitive kind of thing. Love yourself, or else you're a losery loser who doesn't deserve anything good. And I think that's wrong. And I have always reframed it as you gotta learn to respect yourself, so you're not letting people walk all over you. And I just finished listening to and reviewing this story. As far as like the pacing of it, the pacing was excellent if you like thrillers. And it was well edited. It was technically excellent. I kind of hated it. I gave it 3 stars. The review will be up on Reader's Roost on the 8th. I'll link Reader's Roost in the description. And how I got around to this is the protagonist, the heroine in this story, was a total doormat. And the thing is, it's like, okay, I still had sympathy for her, because I was raised, a lot of girls from my generation were raised to believe you're not complete without a man. Well, if you're one of the lucky ones that you found the right man, someone who treats you decent and stuff. And for me, just because, I've always liked, music and imagination and stuff, one of the best examples, I think, of this actually is Alice Cooper. The way he and his wife are together, and he always speaks very respectfully of her. They always speak very fondly of each other. They got a good thing. If you got that, if that's the kind of man you got, I salute you. That is not where I ended up with things. My ex-husband is actually a good person. I get along with him on kind of a family, platonic kind of level. And because of that, that's kind of how I see him. So it's like, how were we ever married? I just don't want to even go there. but because we both had a lot of fuck-uppery in our childhood situations, um, we couldn't have made it work without a lot of help. And we weren't getting that help because no counselor that I ever went to, even the few good ones, acknowledged that my problem was trauma. It was complex PTSD. And it's just like, you just kind of, you gotta learn how to behave. I'm very misbehaved. So anyways, no, you don't gotta have a man to complete you. If you get a good one, hang on to him. Because if you get a good person, if you get a good platonic friend, whatever, hang on to the good ones. But the thing is, you gotta have enough respect for yourself that you can kick the bad ones to the curb, especially when they are gaslighting you and emotionally manipulating you, pulling a Darvo on you, where they try to make it look like you're the one abusing them, and you end up just feeling crazy. Like, does anything I do, am I really even doing it? But also, of course, physical abuse. And excuse me. And I did run into that. Not as much as emotional abuse. Emotional abuse was present in almost every situation that I was in. In in my marriage, I was also guilty of it, because I did come from a background where, as I've said, I was emotionally abused. It wasn't deliberate on my parents' part. They too came from, in various ways, fucked up backgrounds. So yeah. So that's just the thing where it didn't work. And if you do come from such a background, I would almost say, hell, if you're in a relationship, you should do couples counseling if you want it to last. But you got to find somebody who's. There's a lot of counselors out there that are just not great too. I have a lot of mistrust in the mental health system, because it's better than it used to be, but I've been treated very poorly by the mental health system in a lot of cases. And like being around in the 80s, when they just tried to medicate the fuck out of everything. And for instance, I'm not somebody who gets along with those medications. I do not get along with SSRIs or other antidepressant type medications. I do not get along with benzodiazepines. I don't get along with most pain medications. So why I said, I got into the microdosing mindset, and that's what works for me, and it's what works for a lot of people. Again, really can't go in depth here, so that's something I shall go in depth with, like on my Substack or Odyssey or something. I've got to figure that out, these subscription platforms. how to make it work for me, see if I can make any kind of money off it, but the money is not the focus of it. You gotta have a passion for it. I don't know. Just anyways, this card. So, love yourself. It's important to stay positive because beauty comes from the inside out. And so, yeah, that's kind of what I'm talking about here, with thoughts on the, whatever your body is, and it does not matter if you are conventionally attractive, and I know you're like, yeah, well, you're old, you don't even want to attract anybody anymore, and that's true. But I wasted a lot of time putting way, 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 way too much value on being pretty in a certain way. I don't really regret doing this because, sometimes you have spots where, um, well, kind of a conglomeration of adipose cells gather. And for me, it was under my chin, and I did have liposuction there. And as I said, I don't really regret it. It's wasn't that invasive. Other than the caps on my top front teeth, I've not had a lot of procedures done, and I wouldn't. Um, Never had enough money to, for one thing, but that's probably a good thing. Anyway, shouldn't matter if somebody perceives somebody else as attractive or not. There's a level of basic common decency that you need to show everybody. Um, if I went around only being nice to people I found attractive, I'd pretty much be an asshole to pretty much everybody because, um, basically to me, people are just kind of people looking. So if someone is, like, for instance, too young for me to find them attractive, and I'm not talking about underage, that's just creepy. I'm talking about young adult. Well, they're too young for me to be going for them. Should I be treating them poorly? I don't think so. If someone's like, he's 90 years old and frail, um, well, I'm not going to find him attractive in that sense. Should I be like, hey, you old fucker, how dare you be unattractive to me? I get so tired of it. It's so stupid. So yeah, it's kind of what I wanted to talk about today, get into a better frame of mind, and then, you know, I thought we will work on things together. Once again, I don't know. Well, do the split screen. Yeah, I haven't worked on that. But I'll have a timer going. We'll start with a 40-minute timer, and figure we do about an hour all told. Actually, why don't I start with like a warm-up timer? These timers do have music with them, but it's no copyright. I'll put everything in the description. So, yeah. Oh, I think I almost forgot to tell you about my new coffee maker. So it's a low tech deal. You put it on the stove the old-fashioned way, and basically it makes espresso. And so, about the cheapest way to make coffee, either buy the whole bean, grind it, so then you gotta get a grinder, which I don't have right now, but, or buy the ground. And so I have a whole huge honking thing of ground coffee from Costco. I also want to get the decaf, because as I said, mostly what I drink throughout the day is water or decaf. And I like my decaf with cream, or my coffee. I like it with cream. Sometimes I use the flavored creamers. Of course, they have sweetener in them, so I gotta compensate for that. But anyway, I like this thing, but here's the thing. Uh, if you're in a hurry, this is a slow process. I put it on the stove on medium low, which is about the number 4 on my stove. I have an electric stove. I hate gas stoves. I won't have them. But anyways, it took about a half hour for it to percolate up to the right temperature, and then I put it over ice in my mug, and it's good. That takes about a half hour, so you might want to plan around that. My other thing I have is a machine I got from a scratch and dent sale from Cumulus Coffee, and that does strictly cold brew. Oh my God, I love that thing. I would use it every day of the damn week. But the little pods, they're aluminum, so they can be recycled. You don't run into the Keurig problem of the plastic pod, which you can get reusable pods for that, and then just buy and scoop your own coffee and all. But anyway, so that one works fast. You got your coffee in about a minute, and if you like cold like I do, perfect temperature. I love it so much. I just, I have to be a little more thrifty with that on my budget. So yeah, this little percolator thing, I don't know if they sell them on Amazon. I'll take a look at that while we're having fun with our sprints. And I think I should probably get that going on here. So pull up the first one. It's going to be 10 minutes. Again, this is music without copyright. I'll just, I guess, leave my ugly face up on the screen so you can see what I'm doing, and just see that probably you're not as much of a dork as I am, and that you can get yourself together better than I can. As they say, I'm not completely useless. I can always be used as a bad example. Alright, first one. It's going to be 10 minutes. Okay. Code, yeah. Okay, so there's the first one down. I did find some items that I will include for you, links to them. Once again, this is nothing where I was given the item. These are just things that I've actually purchased and used myself. So during that sprint, I went ahead and looked for those mostly, but I also got started on my idea for creating a workbook on, bringing back the joy to your creative process, because to me it hurts a lot to lose that, and I have lost it, and maybe part of it is admitting that. Also looking at the fact that I always thought, of course I thought that what I did was just, it was weird, because I'm weird, and nobody's going to like it, and often I think, geez, it was easier when I was during that period in about 2012 where I had not been writing for a number of years, for about 5 years. I hope this isn't gonna just keep lagging, because that would mean it was yet another one of those videos that some delightful individual is going to give a thumbs down to it, and yeah. Sorry, I'm trying to get myself back into it. Sometimes I get off track a little bit. I'm hoping I'm not going to have to just end this for the session, because like I said, it keeps lagging a bit, and that doesn't bode well. I can maybe try doing these videos on the laptop, I suppose. I guess I could store them to my drive. I store them to my external hard drive on this computer, and that way I can do other things with them in the future if I want. Sometimes I just really hate everybody who pushed me to see myself as so flawed. I completely lack confidence when it comes to this sort of thing. I'm just brazen enough to do it. So, I don't like the sound of my voice. I don't like how I look, and etc. So, anyways, I thought we will now do the 40-minute one, bigger block time, and then I'll come back and blather at you again for a few, and then we'll do another 10, and that makes for an hour that you were creating today, if you've been following along with me. About an hour of putting up with me. Alright, let's get to it. Okay, there it goes. Sorry, y'all, my timing is rubbish. I got up to get a refill on my coffee, use the necessary room, and all that kind of good stuff. And in that time, the timer ran out. I'm gonna do one last 10-minute timer to take us out and kind of make this a 2-hour session. I'll probably gonna, well, no, I guess maybe it won't go over that. Anyways, so yeah, I really like this little coffee maker, and coffee is one of those places I actually tend to spend oh, for God's sake with this. This is what happens when you have an ancient computer. Anyways, coffee is a place where I tend to spend too much money, really. I like a lot of different variety, and so, but I think this will be helpful, because where I can have the variety is maybe more like with the creamers and flavors. I got this from Amazon, legendary sticky bun protein sweet roll. Again, not given a free product for product placement. Is something I bought to try. It has erythritol in it, which sometimes my stomach doesn't like that too much. I don't eat these very often. I wanted to try it. As far as carbohydrates go, and I'm talking about carbohydrates because I have to watch for them and appropriately use insulins. Only 25, so that's not terrible. If you're one of those super low carb keto people, you probably think it's terrible, but I'm not that, so I don't give a fuck. Anyways, the amount of protein is 22 grams. There's also a lot of fiber in it, so yeah, you might find that things go more quickly. I guess that's the most polite way to put it. But I'll put a link for those in case you're interested. As I said, I don't eat them very often. I wanted to get going this morning, and I knew I should eat something, so have a box of those. So I grabbed one and made the coffee in that coffee maker for the first time. The instructions say throw out the first batch, and I'm like, fuck you, no, because that was like the longest half hour of my life waiting for that to percolate. I'm not throwing it out. I'm drinking it. But I'll probably put another tablespoon of coffee into the filter next time. I decided I'd start with one. What I may end up doing is when I get the ground decaf, I may end up doing like a lower caffeine version where I use tablespoon of regular and a tablespoon of decaf, but obviously if I want coffee later in the day, I'm just going to use the decaf. Anyway, like I said, I thought we would do another 10 minutes. I'm sorry if this video got spotty in there a few times. I had a couple instances where things froze up. If you're still with me, you're a frickin' saint, and I think the fact that I said that makes it official. You are now officially a saint. Okay. Pull up the timer and we'll do one more 10-minute. It's not a sprint. 10-minute timed session. Oh God, if I can get anything to work. Swear to God, all I do is provide people with Schadenfreude. They're like, look what a mess this woman is. At least I'm not this much of a mess. This may be where we end things. Like, one more go, and then it just hates me. Okay, now here we are. All right, one more. La, la, la. Okay. Okay, y'all, and that's it for today. That was a quick one. But this video is very long again. If you still love me, thank you. You're a saint. I will probably be back next Sunday. I don't know if I'll be back before that. I'm trying to make Sundays kind of a regular thing. As for the rest of it, it's still kind of off the cuff. But maybe one of these days I'll be in a situation where I can live stream, but I don't foresee that happening anytime in the near future. And once again, I don't really want to put on myself the added task of having to watch the chat, because I'll probably forget to do it. I'm inept. Anyways, I have enjoyed spending this time with you. I hope you find it somewhat useful or entertaining.